Welcome to this video of SQL basics for marketers. I am a marketer. I have had to learn SQL so that I can extract the information from my marketing platforms and do the queries that I really needed to get better marketing insights. In this video, I'm going to try to teach you SQL as simple as possible so you can start using it right away. Let's go. The first thing we're going to learn are the most common SQL operators. To do so, we are going to do it using an example of a Google Sheet or an Excel. You are more familiar to Google Sheets or Excel. So I'm going to try to explain you the SQL operators by something that you already know. So let's start. The first SQL operator is select. Whenever you create a SQL query, you will always start this query with select. And select allows you to choose the columns you want to display in your query. Making the parallel with Google Sheets, what select would be is that imagine you are in this empty Google Sheet, and whenever you start to create a table in Google Sheets, the first thing you do is that you choose headers for each column. And those columns are the ones that it will be displayed in the table you are creating. So essentially, when you use select, what you are doing is basically telling the query that you want to see the column campaign and all that is inside of it, that you want to see the column spend. Select will be the structure of the columns of your query. In this case, we are choosing campaign, spend, clicks, and country. And that's typed like this: select, campaign, comma, spend. All right. So that's the first SQL operator. The second SQL operator is the from. What the from does is that it specifies what table do you want to bring. Doing the parallel with Excel or Google Sheets, what you are going to do with from, doing the parallel as if you were creating a table in Google Sheets, is that in this first Google Sheets that is empty, we didn't give it a name. Now we are gonna name it. We are gonna say, okay, this table is campaign data. So going back to select, what we have done so far is that we are starting our query with select, and we are telling the query, okay, I want you to bring these columns from the data source that is called campaign data. So going back to SQL, how the query will look like is something like this. You're gonna say select campaign spend clicks from the data source that you want to bring those columns. In this case, since we already give it a name to our Google Sheets, will be campaign data. So that will look something like from campaign data, because you are recalling the table where those columns you want to see are in. Now let's continue with the where operator. Now let's talk about the where operator. The where operator always goes after the select and the from, and it will help you to filter rows by any particular condition. It works exactly as if you were using a filter in Google Sheets or Excel. So imagine you are in this table and you say, okay, I'm gonna apply a filter because I don't want to see Europe. So you will touch the column, then you will apply a filter, and then you will have a drop down allowing you to select or deselect the values that you want to be displayed. That's what you are doing with where. You are selecting the column and you are giving a condition so that you can filter the rows. Syntaxes will be where spend is more than 500. So what will happen in this Google Sheet if we do that is that all the rows that has 500 here in the spend, that row will be excluded because it doesn't comply with the condition we are filtering. And that's what we do with the where operator. Awesome. Now let's go with order by. The order by will help you to sort your results. In Google Sheets or Excel, it will be when you go to a column, for example, clicks column, you click on it and then you order that column in a descending or ascending order. That's the same thing with order by. In this case, we are saying order by spend descending. What this will do is that it will take all the values on the spend column and it will order them from the highest to the lowest. And finally, another common SQL operator is limit. To finish this lesson, we have the limit operator. And this limit operator, what will allow you to do is to decide how many rows do you want to see in your query. For example, here we are saying limit 3. If we apply this to this table inside Google Sheet, what will happen is that right now we are seeing 5 rows below the headers. So if we say limit 3, we will only see these 3 rows because we just want to see 3 rows of the table. We don't want to see the full table. So that's how limit will work. Something that you have to remember is that whenever you are creating a SQL query, the order of the operators will always be this one: select, from, where, order by, and limit. This will always be the order you will have to type the operators, and the logic you have to follow is the one I just explained it to you with the worksheets. Now let's see what will be the resulting query. So this is how the query will look like. Select, campaign, comma, spend. These are the columns we are gonna display in our query. In this case, you can see it. You can see them here: campaign and spend. Those are the only two columns that we are showing. From campaign data, remember that we named the previous table as campaign data. So we are bringing the columns campaign and spend from the table campaign data, where spend above 500. So we are filtering any row that doesn't have an spend above 500. That's why we are only seeing the rows with $750 and $620. Order by spend in descending. That means that we are going to organize the rows from major to minor based on their spend. That's why it starts 750 and is followed by 620. And we will only have 3 rows. However, if you see the display here, we only have 2 rows. Why this is happening is because in the where condition, the filter we applied, it says that we will only see rows that have an spend above 500. And if you see the table from where we are extracting the data, we only have 2 rows that are above 500. That's why we only have 2 rows here in our final result. And this is how the Morse and that's why here in the query results we are only seeing 2 rows. That's why here in the query results we are only seeing 2 rows.